All right, so I've been saving my best notes for this final segment because this is really the crux of the entire problem and why all this shit is happening. It is the Supreme Court's fake ass notion of originalism. So we've got two articles here from Politico. One is just basically talking about the judicial philosophy of originalism, and that it requires a very firm grasp of history, which none of these people, well, most of them seem to lack. We've got a second article that is talking about the history of the Supreme Court making bad calls, how hard it can be to come back from those bad calls, and how long it takes and what the process is for that. So we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but I just want to say, first of all, as a Canadian, I have read the U.S. Constitution. I have read the Federalist Papers. Not all of them. I'm working my way through, but I think like 12 were written by Jefferson, 20 were written by Madison, and like a staggering like 84 were written by Hamilton because he was just absolutely prolific and crazy.
And we needed
But
a
I
and
am a
we needed
history
a
nerd, so I
musical.
under
We needed a musical for it too. That's the reason
yes.
why Hamilton wrote
Oh,
all of
don't.
those.
I'm not allowed to sing, Cynthia. I'm not allowed to sing. Don't tempt me to sing Hamilton because I will do it, and the crew will be super mad at me. But I won't do it. I
My
won't do
bad.
it.
My bad.
Um,
My bad. Go ahead.
we talked about the Constitution being a living document, and I think that is the real strength. And Cindy kind of touched on this. Like, who cares what people 250 years ago thought? Well, even they realized that they were flawed and that things would change. And the quote that I wanted to save for this segment was a Jefferson quote that said, "I'm not an advocate for frequent changes in laws and constitutions, but laws and institutions must go hand in hand with the progress of the human mind."
Hmm.
So right there, the whole notion of originalism goes right out the damn window. Like these men built a flexible document, and SCOTUS cheerfully ignores that. Like, where does this end, right? If you're going to get down to, well, if it doesn't actually say the words in the Constitution, well, then it doesn't count. Because if you're going to go that way, I mean, if I were an American, I would strap on some fucking grizzly bear mittens and be like, well, it says the right to bear arms. I'm going to go down to the Senate and maul a few friggin' senators that I don't like, right? Where does it end here, people?
Oh my goodness.
I
Where
also
does
I
it
don't
end?
think there's anything wrong. I'm sorry. Yeah, I know. I might have
Yeah,
lost you with grizzly bear mittens, but
yeah,
I'll
a
try to
little
come
bit, but
back.
that's
But
okay.
I don't think there's anything wrong. There's nothing wrong with venerating the people that founded the United States. Like, I think the
Right.
United States has arguably the coolest origin story of any nation on the planet. Um, they were progressive for their time. Were they perfect? Absolutely not. Were they deeply flawed, problematic through a modern lens? Of course they were. Of course they were. But they built in a mechanism so that later generations could alter and change this system. And what is happening right now is a complete reversal. It's a complete bastardization of the spirit of the founding document of what used to be arguably the greatest country on earth. I think y'all are down out of the top 10 at this point, but I still believe in you. I still believe in you. Your neighbor to the north is deeply frightened, but we still believe in you. Guys, what do you think?
I'm glad that somebody believe in us, Kelly.
Yeah, I yeah, I'm glad somebody believes in us too, honestly. Yeah, it seems like originalism it seems like originalism is just an excuse to push their agenda. I mean, when they start to cherry pick
Of course it is. Yeah.
just single yeah, right, exactly. They start to cherry pick just single sentences or single quotes and think that the person stood for everything they stood for is all summed up in that one sentence. And that's what they're doing. And they're taking a lot of these sentences totally out of context as well. So it to me it just like I said, originalism just seems like all right, this is our way to pass our far right agenda. And we're in for a long ride here, folks. Clarence Thomas was 43 when he was appointed by the first George Bush. He's now the oldest justice on the bench at 74. He shows no signs of quitting, and he seems to be in pretty good health. Kavanaugh, he's the oldest of Trump's appointments. He's 57. Gorsuch is 54. Amy Coathanger Barrett's only 50. They're probably going to be there for at least another 20 to 25 years and possibly longer. There have been 10 justices that served over the age of 82. RBG was 87. The oldest, Holmes, served until he was 90. These people, this majority, and they're a majority, remember, they're not going away anytime soon. But as Cindy mentioned, we do supposedly have checks and balances that our founding fathers were smart enough to put into place. And if we can get enough legislators in there to codify these things into law, these justices have to follow those laws. So, I mean, that's the best way to fight back against this faux originalism. And as everybody says, the Constitution was never meant to be interpreted originally anyway. So, but we need to get rid of this idea that we should go back 250 years to what this country used to be, because it wasn't as good as it is now. We're in a much better position, and we need to keep moving forward instead of moving backwards like these guys are trying to take us. So that's it. Without sounding like a broken record and going off about how we got to change things, I'm going to quit right now.
Well said, Kelley. Well said.
I hear you. What you got to say, Cindy? You're muted, hon.
Yeah, I'm sorry. My cat has been acting up in the last couple of minutes. Yeah, Kelley.
I was going to say your cat is actually objecting to the SCOTUS, but we understand. Continue.
Yeah, everything that Kelley said is right. But I think this this law concept they just made up, it's just another way to say we are conservatives, we don't want anything to change, and the only way to do that is to absolutely stay in the first words of the constitutions. Mm-hmm. Despite everything I've said and what I say sometime on other shows, I am also a little bit optimistic about the future of the US, because the large portion of young people is progressive, and they are the future of the country, and I think we can be hopeful that they will be able to build a country that will last much longer than the one that's currently being fought for. So yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic, but not in the very, very short term. I think it will take some years before this generation you were talking about, Cynthia, takes power and makes things much better. Now, on the specific low side of this segment, I'm not an American. I can't talk much about this aspect, but yeah, I think it's just a way to codify conservatism.
Yeah,
it's another way, as I said at the beginning, it's another way to impose to the majority the will of a minority.
Well, I will say this, since you know what, we love to try to end these things on a light note as best as possible. And since you brought up young people, I want to, and we also talked about Brown versus the Board of Education. There was this guy that some people may have heard of called Thurgood Marshall, who actually argued Brown versus the Board of Education, which aptly overturned Plessy versus Ferguson, which is separate but equal, because when you actually examine is separate equal, it's not. And especially when you saw the resources specifically in the education system at that time period, in areas where it was predominantly Black versus predominantly white, it was literally night and day. He, my friends, was 32 years old when he argued that case. And he ended up becoming a Supreme Court justice until the day that he died. And I think that we've already established that, this faux originalism is just basically cherry picking points that you want to adhere to and points that you don't want to adhere to in order to fit a particular ideology, worldview, and agenda. And we see you, SCOTUS. So I am hopeful because we do have uh, a section of young people that see the issue and are starting to be more aware of what is going on in their country and wanting to step up. And yes, they are the future. And no, I will not sing Whitney Houston right now. But I'm hoping that I would see within this particular body of people that are coming up more people who are looking at the direction of our country and saying, nay, nay, we want better. Remember, the majority of people who were marching during the civil rights movement were young people, and they got sweeping legislation passed. We can do it again, people. We can do it again.